Shalom everyone and welcome to Wusisiwe, blessed in English and Baruch in Hebrew, which means increase, fruitfulness and multiplication. My name is Abigail. We continue with the series entitled Knowing the End from the Beginning. And we were going through the narration of the sixth day of creation, which an angel was sent by Yahweh to instruct Moshe to write down the history of creation that took place in 6 days. Today we'll be looking at the creation of day 2. And as we're looking at this, similar to what we did in the previous teaching, which was day 1, we're looking at the narration from the book of Yobel or Jubilee as compared to the book of Barashith or Genesis. We expect the two books to give the same narration because it was the same angel that instructed Moshe to write down this creation. And obviously it was Moshe who wrote down on both occasions. So it's supposed to be the same. But we've picked up on day 1 that it was not the case. It was not the same. There was much little information provided in the book of Barashith or Genesis as compared to the book of Yobel or Jubilee. Hence, I always emphasize that there are so many other books that are available which are also part of the Torah, like the book of Jubilee, like the book of Enoch, and so many other books that we can have access to expand the knowledge that we have. And those books, they actually provide much bigger context and content as well as compared to the books that we have in the six canon, especially as we're doing the comparison between Barashith or Genesis to Jubilee. Well, today as we're looking at day 2, I've brought here these classes so that we can do an experiment. Sometimes things makes easier when you explain practically in terms of what you're reading and how it's more like a demonstration, so to say. Now, let's then look at Yobel, or Jubilee chapter 2, verse 4, which looks at day 2 of creation. It reads, "And on the second day, Yahweh created the expanse in the midst of the waters." Now, if we just continue the scripture, it says, "And on the second day, Yahweh created the expanse in the midst of the waters. And the waters were divided on that day. Half of them went up above, and half of them went down below the expanse. That was in the midst over the face of the whole earth. And this was the only work Aluah created on the second day." Remember, on day 1, he created 7 works, or there were 7 creations that he made on day 1. It was the Shamayim, or the heavens. It was the Mayim, or the waters. It was the Aretz, or the earth. It was the Ruachoth, or the spirits, or angels. They were created on day 1. It was light. It was darkness. And what was the 7th creation that was made? Oh, it was then abysses. So there were 7 creations that were made on day 1. Abysses, waters, heavens or Shamayim, darkness, light, the Ruachoth or the spirits or angels, as well as the Aretz or the earth. So those were the 7 creations that he made on day 1. But on day 2, he only made 1 creation. And that 1 creation or 1 work was called an expanse. So now let's look at this in terms of practically what it says. The word tells us that on the second day he created an expanse in the midst of the waters. So if you look here, I've just made this practically as an example. So I've put in water in this bowl here, just to illustrate this creation, how it happened. And then it says that in the midst of the waters, so which means in the midst of the waters, then he created an expanse. So um, this is symbolically an expanse. So, and then we'll also look at the scriptures which talks about that an expanse is a hard substance, but we'll look at that later. But for the purpose of this demonstration, the word tells us that on the second day he created an expanse. So this is an expanse, and then otherwise it's known as the firmament. And then he put it in the midst of the waters. Remember, I put in water in here, and then in the midst of the waters. So he put in this expanse in the midst of the waters. So you can see underneath this expanse there is no water, because then the water is down all around the bowl that we're using. And then the scripture says that he put the expanse in the midst of the water. Now remember that he created the waters, or he created the mayim on day one. So there was already his creation or his work made in day one, which was the water or the waters. And then day two, he just created the substance, the expanse, otherwise known as the firmament. And then he put it in the midst of the waters, and by him putting in the midst of the waters, then the waters were divided. Half went above the expanse. So obviously for practicality, just you have to use the imagination that there's water over this expanse, because if you were to put the water, the whole thing will spill. But use your imagination that then there was water over this expanse. And then the word continued to say that there was also water below the expanse. Hence I've put this bowl as an example, in the midst of the face of the whole earth. Now this bowl represent the earth. Now what Yahweh did, remember that the earth was created on day one. The waters were also created on day one. So in day two, when he's creating this expanse, the water is already there, the earth is already there. What he's now doing is just separating these waters to be others to be above the expanse, and then others below the expanse that was in the midst of the face of the whole earth. And this was the work that Aluah created on the second day. Now, if we then, this was written in the book of Yobel, chapter 2, verse 4. If we then look at the same narration of the same story in Bereshith or Genesis chapter 1, verse 6 to 8, it says, Aluah said, let expanse come to be in the midst of the mayim, or let expanse come to be in the midst of the waters. Now, the problem with the book of Genesis or Bereshith, it didn't tell us that the waters were created on day one. So if we now hear this statement that says that let the expanse come to be in the midst of the mayim or the water that came from where? Hence, the information in detail is provided in the book of Yobel that Yahweh actually created the mayim or the waters on day one. And Bereshith 1 verse 6 to 8 continues to say, let it separate the waters from the waters, the mayim from the waters, which is what we also read from the book of Yobel, that the waters were separated in that there was water above the expanse and the waters beneath the expanse. Excuse me, verse 7. And Aluah made an expanse and separated the mayim or the waters which were under the expanse from the mayim or the waters which were above the expanse. It was so. Aluah called the expanse the Shamayim, but the expanse is different from the Shamayim because it is just that it is an expanse. It is the firmament, if I may use the term. Okay, but we know that the Shamayim he created on day one. So it's not correct to then the Barashith or Genesis is not correct to some extent here, because it is saying that Yahuwah called the Expanse Shamayim. Yahuwah could not have called the Expanse Shamayim because he had already created the Shamayim or the heavens, and he created the Shamayim or the heavens on day one. So that creation was already done. This expanse is not is a different creation altogether. Hence the word tells us that on day two he only created one work or one creation, which is an expanse, or which is a firmament, which is what we see when you look up basically in the sky. And there was evening and there was morning the second day. So now, again, if we look at the book of Barashith, it actually downplays the expanse creation, because if you think about it, that's the only work that Yahuwah created on day one. On day two. And I tend to think, why was that how important was this expanse that it's the only work or the only creation that he made on day two? Verse 6 of Barashith chapter 1, it talks about the expanse separating the waters, which it didn't tell us when the waters were created, since it was not mentioned on day one of creation. The implication here is that there was waters already existing, but the truth is we were supposed to be told that actually waters were created on day one, because otherwise, if you now hear waters or mine being introduced, where are they coming from? Because everything that is there was created, and was created by Yahuwah, and without him nothing that was not created by him. So Yahuwah then separated with an expanse. We are only told in 2 words in verse 7 that Aluah made an expanse. Why did the Malak had to mention that this is the only work that Yahuwah created? We were told that he created 7 works on day one, but specifically the angel mentioned that only 1 work was created on day one. Now, if we look at Barashith chapter, continue on chapter 1 verse 8, it says, Aluah called the expanse Shamayim. But as I said, he had already created the Shamayim on day one. He could not have called the expanse Shamayim, because Shamayim and expanse are 2 different works in which they add together, because in total we'll get to that point where it tells us that he created 22 works in 6 days. Yobel tells us, on the other hand, that the Shamayim were created on day one, and other creations that are mentioned, which in total there were 7. Now, the issue here is that this is the same account, like I mentioned before. It's the same account that is narrated, same account of creation history, narrated by the same angel, written down by the same person, Moshe. Why is it different? Why there's missing information? But it is our responsibility now that we have access to these books that we do not dismiss them, because it provides more information. Now, an expanse in Hebrew, it's called a rakia. And if you go to Strong's exhaustive concordance H7549, it defines it as a firmament, like I mentioned earlier before. It is a firmament, visible arc of the sky. So it is visible arc on the sky, meaning something that you can see. If you go outside and you look up, you can see it. And it says visible arc. So the shape of it's more like, I did the best that I could in explaining it with this glass, as an arc that is covering and separating the waters from the earth. So this is the earth, and then there are waters on the earth, and then the waters over the expanse. It is also defined as a solid, hard vault or dome. Now, this is how Strong's exhaustive concordance explains the expanse. It says it's a solid, and that's why I use the glass. See, it's a solid material, it's hard material, so that, and this also covers the whole issue of certain people that they say that they go outside of the expanse. No one can go outside of the expanse. Yahweh created this expanse on day 2 to separate us being here on earth. We are contained within this vault. We are contained within this dome. All of us are basically, as it talks about it, underneath this vault that is attached to the earth or the arets. Let me not go ahead of myself, but you can read the definition for yourself for expanse on Strong's exhaustive concordance, H7549. H stands for Hebrew 7549. But it tells us that it is defined as a firmament, visible arc of the sky. It is also defined as a solid and a hard vault or a dome. Now, the expanse is hard. Did you, if with him, actually, if you read the book of Job chapter 37 verse 18, yes, the book of Job chapter 37 verse 18, it reads, with him he spread out the clouds, strong as a hard mirror. So Job is explaining the expanse. Job is explaining the firmament. He's explaining it in the book of Job chapter 37 verse 18 as a cloud strong as hard as mirror, hence the depiction that I've used in today's presentation, that this is an expanse. It's not just some gas that anyone can just go from the earth through it and go in the outside space or outside wherever. The expanse is actually a boundary. The expanse is it's a limitation basically that says that everything that you do here on earth, you are inside this expanse. And then we're going to be looking at when you look at day 4 of creation, that he then put the sun and the moon in the expanse, on the expanse. That will be the day 4 of creation. But it is a hard substance that no one can go through it outside of the earth to somewhere outside of it. That's what the word says. I've always mentioned this, even when I speak to my children, I would say, the word of Yahuwah is the benchmark of anything in life. So when we have a situation where the scientists are saying something and the word is saying something, if science is in agreement with the word, that's good and well. But if what is the scientists say is contrary to the word, then we take the word and we dismiss what the scientists say. Like for example, when you talk about the Big Bang Theory, there is no Big Bang Theory. The word tells us that Yahuwah created the arets and the shamayim and all the things that he created in 6 days. So things didn't just boom, bang, and happened. No, there was a systematic planning and someone working logically. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6 in this creation. Same with human beings. If people say, certain people or scientists say that human beings evolved from apes, and the word says that Yahweh created the apes or monkeys, and he also created men and female. So the word of Yahweh takes prominence. There is nothing to argue there. You dismiss what the scientists say, and the word of Yahweh becomes the benchmark in what you are doing. He says he created male and female. He created them, not both, not one human being that is both male and female. No, no, no. There was male and female. And this is what the word says, and this is what we believe, for it is so. All right, so we've explained that Job actually testifies that the expanse is actually a hard substance, strong as a hard mirror. And the other thing also that we see, which I spoke about in the previous teaching, is that Yahusha was with Yahweh when Yahweh was creating the creation, the 6 days of creation. Aluah is the one who was creating. It wasn't us. It wasn't him and Yahusha creating. Yahusha was observing and was happy to see Yahweh creating. And we read this in the book of Mashal or Proverbs chapter 8 verse 27 to 29. Proverbs chapter 8 verse 27 to 29, it reads, look, the order of levels. So what I want you to check is basically the order of levels in terms of the scripture that I'm going to read. It reads, when he prepared the Shamayim. So Yahusha is talking in Proverbs chapter 8. And in Proverbs chapter 8 or Mashal chapter 8, he speaks as wisdom, because the word says wisdom. It doesn't say Yahusha, but it refers to Yahusha. It says, when he prepared the Shamayim, when who prepared the Shamayim? When Aluah prepared the Shamayim, or the heavens. Aluah, or the Most High, Yahweh, created the heavens, the Shamayim. Yahusha is not saying when we created the Shamayim. He is very clear, he is very specific that it was Yahweh who was creating, it was Aluah who was creating. It says when he, singular, when he prepared the Shamayim, I was there. So Yahusha says, I was there when Yahweh created the Shamayim, when Aluah created the Shamayim, I was there. When he decreed a boundary on the face of the deep, when he set the clouds above, when he made the fountains of the deep strong, when he gave the sea its limit so that the Mayim, or the waters, would not transgress his command, when he decreed the foundation of the earth, he was there. And look at the order of the creation, which Yahusha, who is depicted as wisdom in Proverbs chapter 8. The order starts with the Shamayim, or the heavens, which is true because that was created on day 1, and then the expanse was created on day 2. So it supports the waters above, which we find in Barashit chapter 1 verse 7, and it says, and Aluah made expanse and separated the Mayim, or the waters which were under the expanse, from the waters, or the Mayim, which were above. So as I said, there's waters above the expanse and under the expanse. As we conclude then the day 2 of creation, we are looking at this information that is provided from different scriptures. Number 1, the expanse is attached to the earth. That's why I spoke about it before. So this is the expanse, and this is depiction of the earth. And you can see the waters, like I spoke about earlier on in here. And there will obviously be waters. Then the word tells us that the expanse is attached. So if you think about it, it's like this. It is attached to the earth, within which Yahweh placed on the expanse, he placed the sun, the moon, and the stars, and upon which his throne then sits. So let's go through the scripture that speaks about what I've just said. If you look at the book of Amos chapter 9 verse 6, it says, Who is building the lofty palace in the Shamayim, has its foundation on the Aretz or on the earth, who is calling for the Mayim of the waters and pours them out on the face of the earth. Yahweh is his name. Now, we are told that in the book of Amos chapter 9 verse 6 that the earth has its foundations. And then we are also told that the expanse is attached to the Aretz. It says, who is building his lofty palace in the Shamayim has its foundation. So the foundation of the Shamayim, which is Yahweh's palace, has its foundation on the Aretz. The Shamayim, which is Yahweh's palace, has its foundation on the Aretz. That's what Amos 9 verse 6 says. Who is calling for the Mayim of the sea and pours them out on the face of the earth. Yahweh is his name. So the issue here is that, and all this teaching is to address the misconception that it is the earth that is spinning. No, the earth is not spinning. Think about it. If then the earth was spinning, and we are told that the Shamayim, or the heavens, which are Yahweh's palace, that they are attached on the earth, then it means also the heavens or the Shamayim is spinning. And it can't be. The Shamayim, the heavens, cannot be spinning. So every single time we need to be, even as Romans 12 says, that we need to renew our minds. There's so many teachings that we had from primary school, from high school, from university, from colleges, and so forth, where we're told that the earth is spinning at some whatever pace. That is not true. What is moving is the sun and the moon, but the earth is firm, it is solid. And we'll go through more of those scriptures. Yekeskel or Ezekiel chapter 1 verse 26. Ezekiel chapter 1 verse 26, it says, and above the expanse over their heads was the likeness of a throne. Above what? Remember, this is an expanse. So above the expanse, this is now referring to the Shamayim. Above the expanse, over their heads was the likeness of a throne, in an appearance like a sapphire stone. Remember the color sapphire is like bluish. That's how when you look at the sky, it actually is blue, or it reflects the blue color, which is the sapphire stone that is in the Shamayim. It's reflected through the expanse, which is like a mirror. We spoke about earlier on that it's like a mirror. Yeah, it was in the book of Job 37 verse 18 that with him he spreads out the clouds strong as a hard mirror. So remember what the mirror does, it reflects something. So if the Shama, as the word in the book of Ezekiel chapter 1 verse 26 tells us that the appearance, it says, above the expanse over their heads was the likeness of a throne, Yahweh's throne, the appearance like the sapphire stone. So the appearance of a sapphire is what? It is blue. So then the color blue will then reflect through this expanse, because the expanse is what? It is a glass, it is a mirror which reflects the color that it is basically it is reflecting. So it's not that Yahweh created the expanse and he painted it blue. No. It is like a mirror, as Job 37 verse 18 says, which reflects the color, as Ezekiel chapter 1:26 tells us, of a sapphire stone. And we know that sapphire is blue. And on the likeness of the throne was a likeness of as the appearance of man high above it. And if you look at the book of Yeshaya or Isaiah chapter 66 verse 1, it says, "Thus says Yahuwah, the Shamayim are my throne, and the Arets my footstool. Where is the house that you built for me? And where is the place of my rest?" So we already know that the Shamayim, he created the Shamayim, Yahuwah, for himself. That's where his throne is. And the earth is its footstool. And that's why I've been addressing the issue that there is nothing and there's no scripture that says that we are going to be living in heaven. The word talks about the kingdom of heaven, the reign of the Shamayim. But it doesn't say that we're going to go to live in heaven. And that's why even the word, when it talks about the creation of the new earth and the new heaven, that we will be here on earth. Even when people make reference to 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, which says that when Yahuwah comes, we will be caught up together with those who will be resurrected on first resurrection, and our bodies will be transformed and will meet with him. It says we'll meet with him in the clouds. It doesn't say in heaven. We'll meet with him in the clouds. And from there, we will then rule and reign with Yahushua HaMashiach here on earth for 1,000 years, for 1,000,000 years. So all these things that we grew up in churches hearing, that has no basis for it. There is no, it was just the traditions of men. We need to go back to the word. Parashith chapter 1 verse 14, or Genesis chapter 1 verse 14, it says, "And Aluah said, let lights, which is the sun, the moon, and the stars, come to be on the expanse." This is on verse 14. Genesis chapter 1 verse 14. The sun, the moon, and stars, they're on the what? They're on the expanse. So they are, he placed them. If I could place them here, I tried of putting like a tape to make like a design of the sun and the moon and the stars. But use your imagination that he placed the moon, the stars, and the sun on the expanse. And then the expanse is then attached to the earth. Hence, it is the moon and the stars that are moving over the earth, not the earth moving, not the earth rotating, not the earth orbiting. The sun rise, the sun sets. The moon rise, the moon sets. From one second to the other second. It says, "And Aluah said, let light come to be in the expanse of the Shamayim, to separate the Yom, or the day, from the night, and let them be for signs, for appointed times, and for days, and for years." As we close day 2 of creation, we close with Psalms or Tehillim chapter 19 verse 1, and it reads, "The Shamayim are proclaiming the esteem of Aluah, and the expanse is declaring the work of his hand." So you see that even Daud, otherwise known as David, he's making a separation between the Shamayim, or the heavens, and the expanse. He's saying the Shamayim, or the heavens, are proclaiming the esteem of Aluah, and the expanse, this being the expanse, is declaring the work of his hand. And this is where then we'll stop on the teaching around the day 2 of creation, which was the expanse, and then we'll then be looking at day 3 of creation. Shalom.